Yo, Neek, did you ever hear what Jeff Teague said when they asked him why'd he body check LeBron into like the first row in the finals?
Nah, what'd he
Or
say?
not in the finals, I'm sorry, when he was in the playoffs again. He said, "What you mean why? We was losing. I'm a sore loser."
Week.
What's up, y'all? It's May 2nd, 24. Tony Styles. That's unique. We are the HoopStorians. Apologies for late. I got stuck in traffic. Start the show. It's going to kind of be a short night as well. So, no apologies for that. But want to get into this day in NBA.
Are you asking me? Yeah, I'm sorry, you're getting choppy, but yeah, let's do it.
This day in NBA history, May 2nd, 2014, Portland star Damian Lillard hits a three-pointer with .9 left in Game 6 to give the Trailblazers a 98-98 series-clinching win against the Houston Rockets. Only second-year Dame as well. Question for you on that, which is crazy because the very next year, when Chris Paul hit that Game 7 winning shot against the Spurs, so, we had back-to-back years of game winners. But where do you rank Damian Lillard all-time in getting the last shot? Like, how many people would you have ahead of him? Would you have him number one? Where would you rank him at?
I don't know that I necessarily have him at number one. He is ranked high though. I would put him in my top 5 as far as being the last person to shoot. Maybe even my top 3. I don't really know exactly where I have him positioned, but yeah, Dame is clutch enough for me to trust him with the ball for the last second or the last possession, in my
Can you
opinion.
give us some of the other people you got up there in your top, 5, 3? Like, who's he up there with?
Um, you're probably gonna trip when I say this. Mike is one. Reggie Miller is one. Um, like I said, Dame is another one. Even KD. KD's one I would trust with the ball. Are we talking about for 3 or just to get the game winning bucket?
Just game winner shot, period.
Oh, game winning shot, period. Oh,
Yeah.
now, I mean, Shaq, he's one I would trust for a game winning shot.
I wouldn't trust him because they could foul him and he'd miss the free throws.
Not if you lob it up though. But that's
If you lobbed it up, I'd body check the hell out of him.
So let's see. Obviously, the likes of like a Paxson or a Kerr, they can be trusted with the last shot. Definitely, they're specialists with stuff like that. Even Trey, I trust Trey Young shooting last shot. So that's who I got. And I'm
Man, you
sure
ain't
there's
even
some more.
I was gonna say you ain't even named Bird or Ori.
See, and you know what's crazy about that? Obviously, they will be somebody that should get that nod, especially in my opinion, especially Bird. Nothing against Ori, but I definitely would trust Bird more than I would trust Ori, although Ori has proven time and time again, he's Big Shot Bob. So I mean, even Chauncey Billups, dang, it's so many, bro. It's way too many.
Yeah, I think probably my top 4. And I'd have to, like, no diss to like Ori or whatever. Like, if it's really last second where you could just throw it to them and they catch it and shoot it, something like that. But I think I think you got to go like, and this is no order, but like Jordan, Bird, Damian Lillard, Jerry West, guys like that, because they can create their own shot as well. Hit it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with all of those. Yeah, all of those.
So, well, that was this day in NBA history. So hold on, we got a question right now. Tim Duncan or Kobe?
For the last second shot, or as far as who's the better player? If we're going with last second shot, I would probably go with Tim only because of how big he is, and it's going to be very difficult to defend against him. I have seen Tim miss at the rim, but at the same time, I still trust Tim enough to where last second, I like a lob into Tim, or I like, Tim in the paint versus, Kobe lobbing. Now, Kobe, in my opinion, did display clutch performances. He does fling the ball up a lot, but he also gets heavily guarded at the same time. I feel as though Tim though would be more consistent and more efficient, I should say, in that regard. So I would go with Tim. As far as even the better player, my preference is Kobe, but and I think Kobe's more talented, but I think all around Tim is a better all around player. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if you remember that '04 series where Fisher hit the point four, Tim Duncan hit a crazy shot over Shaq, and I think somebody else was outreached over it too,
Was
falling
that
down.
that off balance shot?
Yeah,
That was that
and
off
off
balance
ball.
shot.
Yeah, yeah, shooting it, lobbing it up. So I mean, that's clutch. You hitting shots in the playoffs with point four left to take the lead. So you're down now. You take the lead or whatever. Definitely, I would definitely rather have Tim Duncan than Kobe. I think Tim Duncan is the ultimate winner. Start your franchise with that. There was a thing on All the Smoke. I'd love them to see this because I'd really like to ask him this. Bill Simmons once asked Steven Jackson and Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, like, who would you pick, Kobe or Duncan? And they both picked Kobe. And the reason why, they're like, well, Kobe would do anything to win. And then immediately I thought to myself, well, Kobe wouldn't take a pay cut to win, and Kobe wouldn't come off the bench to win. And Tim Duncan did both of those things to win. So, anybody that can humble their ego like that, really for the greater good to win, um, to me, that's just invaluable, and it says where the mindset is. Also, if Kobe was willing to do anything to win, he would have put his own ego aside. I'm not saying it's all his fault, and not got rid of Shaq, because he went from the finals with Shaq to not making the playoffs next year, because it was more important to him to be the man than to win with Shaq. So that's why I always hate with that. Kobe would do anything to win. Well, he's already proven no that he won't do anything to win. If he would have
I
done anything
mean,
to win, he would have kept Shaq.
I'm with you on the Shaq point. As far as Kobe not wanting to come off the bench, that makes perfect sense though. Kobe, he saw more success when he was starting than he did when he was coming off the bench. So why go back to that? Especially when he's the best player on his team up until after Shaq left. Kobe's the best player on his team until his retirement. Why
I
would you
think there
want to
might
come
be
off the bench?
I think there might be some arguments for his last couple years. It definitely is. I think there's arguments for his last three. Because Kobe being like, we'll use this shooting Mike.
Hurt.
We'll use this. So Kobe's, he's 6'6", about the same size as Mike, right?
Mm-hmm.
But his last 3 years, he's shooting the ball like he's Allen Iverson, and not even and worse than Allen Iverson at that. So that's what I mean. Why are you in Mike's body shooting at a percentage of Allen Iverson when Allen Iverson was arguably, they say, he was 5'10", 160. So
I
why are you
mean,
shooting at that percentage?
he was hurt though. You feel me?
So, which was why he wasn't the best player. Why there's an argument he wasn't the best player.
He
Totally
was
get
still the
that.
best player. He was still the best player though. He just hurt. It's like who's a good Booker. Booker goes down with an ankle, or Booker goes down, let's say, with a he sprains or breaks his wrist or something like that. Knock on wood, hopefully not. But let's say Booker breaks his wrist. He comes back next season and his shot is just completely off. Does that mean he's not one of the best players on the team, or not the best player on the team anymore because he has an off year due to injury? I don't think that necessarily means that. I'm not knocking you if that's the way you view it, but me, I don't feel as though it necessarily means that. I think that these players on that team knew that talent wise, Kobe was that one. He was just, like I said, he was just injured. He was towards the end of his career. So yeah, he had taken some steps down and back, but at the same time, I don't know who arguably would have been better than Kobe any of those last 3 years, not on that team.
Well, I mean, by every single metric you can say, Lou Williams was better than him his last year, and he was on that team.
Lou Williams, the six man Lou.
Yeah, six man Lou. Lou Williams was Kobe Bryant shot the ball 6.6 more times than Lou for 2.3 more points. Lou had a better PER. He was more efficient. I mean, just every metric. Then Kobe Bryant scoring 17 a game on 35%, versus Julius Randle getting you a double-double in less than in the same amount of minutes. There's an argument there. Jordan Clarkson had an argument for being better than him this last year.
Jordan Clarkson is wild. I give you Randall. I don't agree with it, but I give you Randall. Lou's job as a sixth man is less. I mean, it's demanding as far as offensively, but at the same
Well,
time, like he has to
well that
carry a.
season, well that season though, Lou started more games than he came off the bench.
Okay. He doesn't have the same defensive focus that teams play with Kobe though. Like Kobe's the focal point when it comes to defense. They'll throw the whole team at Kobe if they can.
Well, because Kobe wasn't passing at that point. So, and there was also that Game 7 motto, and what was it? Where Kobe went 6 for 24 in Game 7, where the Celtics like, yo, let's just let this guy shoot at the expense of everybody else. And until they started to call the game different in the fourth quarter, it was clearly working. Kobe also, though, hold on, I want to get this straight. Kobe also that year, like Lou Williams, Brandon Bass, Larry Nance, Jordan Clarkson, all of them had a better box plus minus score than Kobe as well. So I'm not saying they were better, but I'm saying, there was different because, like I said, if you really watch that last year, Kobe didn't give a shit. Kobe just shot it every time. Kobe wasn't passing because why is Kobe only getting you 2.8 assists? So, yeah. So, I mean, just Duncan. Like, Duncan never played inefficient. Duncan played on one leg the last 6 years of his career or something like that. So, I mean, Duncan was injured too. It's just, Duncan was a bigger body. Duncan was Kobe wasn't able to overcome his injuries and stuff like that. So, yeah. So the last 3 years, if Kobe cared about winning, he would have took the pay cut. You know what I mean? Tried to get other people in there. Came off the bench, something like that. But that's not what happened. So that's why I got Duncan over Kobe. Duncan won 50 games every single year, 19 years, only player to do that. People give some pushback with, well, look at his team. Well, Greg Popovich was 17-47 the year before Duncan got there. And after that, he started missing the playoffs again. It's clearly on Duncan. So we're saying the same things, I think. You know what I mean? I just think, you like, like you said, you personally like Kobe better, and that's fine as well. And all that, but yeah, he just wasn't as efficient as Duncan. It showed by Duncan constantly winning 50 games. When people are like, well, Kobe didn't play with the talent that Duncan did. I mean, I'll disagree with
Kobe
that.
had more talent. Kobe had more talent than Duncan, in my opinion.
Right. Well, and then if you look, like Patty Mills did nothing with Portland, did a whole lot more when he got to San Antonio. Matt Bonner didn't really do nothing in Toronto, did a whole lot more when he got in San Antonio. Tim Duncan, his big three was the 28th pick and the 57th pick. Kobe's, two main guys was the first pick and the third pick. So that's what I'm saying. Pau Gasol and Shaq are way more talented than Parker and Ginobili. Way more talented.
Yeah.
So, anyways, you want to get into peaks, or we want to keep going down this Kobe Duncan thing?
Since we out of time already on week, I mean, we can do whatever.
Some peaks. Let's give some peaks. Who's some peaks you want to talk about? We're not going to rank these. We're just going to kind of go through them. Talk about some people that we thought had really good peaks. So who you got?
Well, since we were just talking about Kobe and Duncan, I'll start there. I'll start with Kobe. Now, with Kobe, I have a 5-year peak. I have Kobe from 05 to 2010. The reason being is because, I mean, he's averaging almost 30 during this time, both in the playoffs and in the regular season. I mean, his numbers look pretty much the same for that 5-year stretch. We got him getting 29 a game. We got him getting about 5 rebounds a game, about 5 assists a game, about a steal a game. He's shooting at about 45% in that time frame. We get 2 titles out of him. We get an MVP out of him. We get 2 finals MVPs out of him. He's an all-star for all 5 of these years. He's making all-NBA first teams, all-NBA defensive first teams. He led the league in scoring twice within that time frame. I mean, at one point when he led in scoring, that was with 35.4 points a game. So, yeah, I feel like that was a great peak period for Kobe.
You know what's crazy about that? Because I always argue this because everybody wants to immediately go to the 35-point game as his best year. And, my argument is, and especially with the eye test too, the stats back it up everywhere else other than points. But to me, it's that 03 season where Kobe was just really at, like, if we're talking one season peak. So what happened is, and a lot of people don't remember that, he put on like 15 pounds of muscle that year. Came back looking swole. Yeah, he came back looking swole, and he never looked that big again. He never looked that swole, that cut again, because the next year he had the Colorado thing, and he looked a lot skinnier and shit like that. But yeah, that 02-03 season, he was like 30 points, 7 boards, 6 assists, 2 steals. I think it's the only year he ever averaged over 2 steals, almost a block a game, highest career 3-point percentage and all that. So yeah, to me, just 24-year-old Kobe was just like the dopest version of Kobe. Like without a doubt. without a doubt to me, because like other than points, he pretty much clears in every other stat. 05, 06 versus 02, 03 or whatever. You got like a peak season for Kobe out of those five, or different season or anything like that?
As far as peak seasons, no. No, I really dive that deep for that one.
Hmm.
Yeah, he
Well, I just
wasn't
mean
on my.
since you saw his whole career, I just mean like anyone you remember specifically when you thought like
Nah, the reason being is because I've watched so much basketball, especially since like Kobe has
Mhm.
come into the league and left, to where these seasons are starting to run together to me at this point. So it's like I have
You've
trouble
aged.
some. Yeah, you feel me? I have trouble sometimes remembering like who was on what team, what year, and stuff like that. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's really why.
I got you. You want to talk about Duncan? Where you got Duncan's peak at?
So for Timmy, where I got Tim at? Where did I put my Tim at? Oh, Tim. All right. So Tim's peak to me, I have him 99 to 2004.
Okay.
Now, the reason I went with that in this time frame, we get a title out of Tim. We get two MVPs out of Tim. Of course, he got one of the finals. He got the finals MVP when he won. Again, just like Kobe, he's an All Star all 5 of these years. He's making All NBA first teams. He's making All NBA first defensive teams. He's making All NBA defensive second teams. He's given us an average of about 23 during the season, 24 in the playoffs, about 12 rebounds in the season, 14 in the playoffs, about 3 blocks, about 3 assists. So yeah, and he's shooting at 50%, both in the regular season and in the playoffs. So there's that efficiency of Tim Duncan.
Well, what's funny is Chill. I don't know. Have you seen the viral video of Chill, where he's fucking where he's screaming,
He
"You
was.
have no idea how good Tim Duncan is, or was, or whatever he said." Have you seen that
I
video?
see that. Yeah, I
Right.
see it.
Right. And like that's how I feel. Like people don't understand. Like like even if you think he's boring, if you are, everybody talks about like a hooper thing. If you're a true hooper, how can you not like Tim Duncan's game? He made everybody on the floor better. Better. He didn't make mistakes. He wasn't. I'll put it this way: if you're a coach, you love him. You know what I mean? He's not
Mhm.
doing no silly shit. He's not doing no crazy shit. He's just doing the most effective way to win. Um, Another thing that's crazy about Duncan is like he would get you those, 2, 3 blocks and all that, in the playoffs, he'd bump that up to like 4 or 5 blocks in some series, maybe six some series or something like that. I know for the playoffs a
Mhm.
couple times, at least once, I want to say maybe more, but he at least averaged 4 blocks one time in the playoffs, which is like, a legit number. But he does all of that. He's not chasing blocks. He's never out of defensive position. Never.
Mhm.
Never. Like I don't think people understand that. He is never, like, don't get me wrong, he might get beat or something like that, but it's not because he's out of defensive position. It's just because, uh great offense usually beats great defense.
Yeah, he
Um
wasn't the most athletic, so yeah, I could see somebody having a step on him in that regard, but yeah.
and see, that's another thing about how good he is defensively. He's not most athletic, but he's still being this awesome defender. Just every year, all defensive first team, all NBA, all decent first team, all NBA. I'll tell you what's crazy when you really think about it like this. So 2003, they win the title.
Mhm.
2004, Derek Fisher hits the shot. Okay,
Mhm.
that bullshit
That
shot,
what was
lucky
that
shot,
four
great shot.
seconds? Yeah.
Yeah, point four and all that. Okay, so there's an argument if he doesn't hit that shot, they win the title, right? And that's it. I know it's in the
Mhm.
second round. They still have to beat Minnesota after that, but I think they would have beat Minnesota. And I think they were the Pistons, and they proved that the next year. So 05, they win another title. 06, what happens? Manu Ginobili hits that, does that bullshit foul and one on Dirk, where Dirk hits that, gets the three, sends it to overtime, they win the game. If Manu Ginobili just would have either fouled harder or not gave him the and one, you know what I mean, or let him go or whatever, they probably don't win that game. And then once again, then it's the Spurs versus the Suns, and the Spurs own the Suns. And the Suns was missing 3/5 of their starting lineup by the time they got to the conference finals. And then I don't think the Heat
Mhm.
had any answer for them. So, and then they win 07. So basically, there are two plays in there that, we have a serious argument that Duncan might have won 5 titles in a row. Now, my question is for you: if those two plays doesn't happen and literally everything else stays the same, that means Duncan is 7-1 in the finals, never misses the playoffs, never loses more than 50 games. or never not wins less than 50 games in a season. Is he not considered the great GOAT of all?
I don't know if he gets considered the GOAT based on that because he still has to, as far as title wise go, he for me that will put him closer to like what Russell is, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know if it necessarily stamps him as the GOAT, but it definitely puts him higher in that argument. It puts him closer to that title, in my opinion. Where we see
Let's go over
Tim,
this. Keep going. Sorry.
I was gonna say where we see Tim Duncan, where he's usually in most people's top 10, but he's usually somewhere around like 8 to 10. Whereas if he would have had titles like you're saying, got 7 in 8 years, I think that will put him probably at number two. He'd probably be two,
Behind
two
who?
or three. As far as the GOAT, um, whether you want to go
Because
with MJ, whether you want to go with LeBron or MJ, like,
well, then that's my
or even
question.
if you want to
Because
go with a,
that's my question. Part of MJ's argument is the 6 rings, the three-peat. This dude's got 5 in a row.
that's not my argument though for
What's your
MJ being
argument?
one of the greats. My argument for MJ being one of the greats is the stuff that he was doing. Like as far as the individual accolades, Jordan has even more individual accolades than Tim Duncan. He doesn't have the same amount of team success where we're seeing his records be the same, but we are seeing Jordan be as dominant and appear to be even more dominant than what Tim was. Tim was dominant as far as his teams are always in contention. His teams are always a team that you got to look out for. But at the same time, Tim, I don't know that I consider Tim to be the best player in the league. And if I did consider Tim to be a best player in the league, that would only be for a few seasons. Whereas with Mike, it it was almost like once he got over that hump and established himself as a champion, he looked like, to most people, obviously everybody's not going to agree with this, but Mike looked like, for the duration of the 90s, he looked like the best player. Not the whole 90s, but I say 90 to 98. While he was playing, he appeared to be the best player. So it's stuff like that. I felt like Mike was just dominating in multiple different ways at once. So that's why I still have him above Tim. Just like, Tim is constantly giving you 50 wins per season. LeBron is constantly giving you like 25 points a game. So that's another reason why I kind of got Mike and LeBron above Tim. It's not necessarily just based on their titles. Now, the argument for Tim is that when he has all of these individual accolades, when Tim's getting defensive, he's making defensive teams and he's getting snubbed for like defensive player and stuff like that, because I'll give him that. He got snubbed. But things like that is the reason why, yeah, I can argue for Tim that he belongs there, but I don't feel as though he was, personally, I don't feel as though Tim is as dominant as a LeBron or a Mike to the whole league, I should say. He's dominant for his position and his team showed dominance. But I don't feel as though Tim himself was so dominant to where he's the best. And when we're talking GOATs, the
Well,
greatest of all time, I was just gonna say real quick, when we're talking GOATs, the greatest of all time, I also um, wanted to be clear that these people that I'm picking as a GOAT were also the best player at some point as well. You feel me? Because obviously, great and best are not the same thing. But I'm like, for me to be considered great, you also at some point had to be the best. I don't feel as though I saw Tim as the best player in the league, at least not often enough for him to be the GOAT.
here's the thing. But if he's winning 5 titles in a row, especially in a 30 league team, how couldn't we consider him the best? Because that's the argument for when Russell's the best, is because they kept winning, even though Wilt was putting up much better numbers. And even though Wilt was getting all these scoring titles and rebounding titles, and he would have got blocking titles and defense, they didn't have all those other things as well. So that's the argument for Russell's argument, and we see how far that carries. And Tim is putting up better stats than Russell. We're also seeing Tim and Tony being his second best player, being a Kobe and Shaq. So we'll all agree Kobe and Shaq's better. But if Tim and Tony are beating Kobe and Shaq, how is he not the best? And not especially in '04. Now Tim has beat Shaq, Kobe, Karl Malone, Gary Payton. You know what I mean? And that team was supposed to win like 75 games. When they put it together, they're talking about it's going to challenge the record for the 72 wins. Then we're like 05. Now he's beat Wade and Shaq. Then it's like, then it's like, Jordan was the best player in the league, but he also had Pippen, and Pippen was much better than Parker. And then LeBron was winning these titles, but then he had guys like AD and Dwayne Wade and Kyrie. All those guys are better, more talented than Parker. So if Tim and like part of knock on Russell when you push back, you're like, well, he had 9 Hall of Fames with him. Tim didn't have any of that. He had a 12 bench guy with Ginobili. He had a guy late round with Tony Parker. So why wouldn't we consider him the best if he's winning 5 in a row in a 30-team league with less talent than these other players had?
I mean, for me, well, for one, as I just said right now, I didn't even consider my GOAT to be Russell, for sake of what I'm describing
Yeah.
here. But as far as Tim, when it comes to Tim, why would he not still be the GOAT in this regard? I mean, for me, it's still the fact that even with his team having less, I guess, I don't want to say less talented player, but less Hall of Fame worthy players, I should say, they still were a better unit as far as how they play. Now, that's not a knock against him. I'm not taking it away from him. I'm more so saying that contributed to the success that they were seeing, whereas there was friction between Kobe and Shaq. So, that's why we're seeing sometimes they're not rising to their full potential or rising to the occasion or doing the things that we know them to do because they just couldn't get along at times. Tim did really good. So this is, an argument for him that he did well with being able to work with what he had. So yeah, I'll give him that. But for me, it still didn't make him the best. It may have made him one of the smarter players or one of the smartest players. It may have made him one of the easiest players to work with. But him winning 5 in a row would have been with the unit that's constantly making it to the playoffs anyway. They were always in contention. So it's like, for me, it doesn't change. It doesn't change. If he gets those extra titles, it doesn't really change based on the fact that, I mean, they were always there. We're watching him constantly go. I watched him back to back to back to back to back to back to back go to the playoffs. It still didn't make him look like the best player to me.
Well, who else you got in your peak and all that? Where you got Jokic at? You got this Jokic peak right now.
So Jokic is a weird dude because Jokic is still currently in his peak. I feel like his peak started in 2018, or at least that's where I have him peaked at. So 2018 until current, really. But my 5-year stretch was 2018 to current, actually.
Well, if we're doing current, he's like what, 24, 12, and like 9 or something like that.
And I ain't even pull up his current numbers, but like his peak, yeah, he's still currently enjoying his peak or playing through his peak, in my opinion. Are you asking me?
Does Jokic have an argument right now for like one season best player ever?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You got a
Who would you put up with that? I'm talking about now. I mean, I think he's playing the best he's ever played now.
Oh, right now.
Or would you say like the year prior is better?
I feel like a couple of years prior might have been slightly better, in my opinion. But
pick a season then. Yeah, just pick a season. His 1-year peak, his best season ever. Do you think he has an argument for best player ever? I think he does.
Yeah, but I feel as though if we were to take any player's 1-year peak, like their best, if we were to construct a list of about 10 of them, I think they will all legitimately have an argument. It might even be more than that, but it's like, because some of these players are just so great that their peaks are something unbelievable. Because, let's say we take like a Wilt Chamberlain from like the 60s type of peak. You feel me? Like, how do you compete with that? How do you compete with like 25 and 20? Like, I mean,
well, then we look at them. I guess
and 20.
Yeah, then I guess we would go with we'd go with competition. Like, for example, Kobe and Duncan, both great players. I don't think their peaks are anywhere near in the top 10 peaks.
Fair. Yeah, that's fair. I don't.
You know what I mean?
Like, you feel me? If I was to construct the top 10, they wouldn't be on mine. They'd be just outside it, but not on it.
Right. Well, so that's what I'm saying.
Actually, Yeah. They be just outside it.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think everybody, but like I think Jokic has a real argument that he is right now the best player of all time. You know what I mean? A 1 year best player of all time. I think Jokic has got an argument. I was hanging on to Giannis for a while, and I got to concede now. Jokic is definitely the best player in the league. Um,
That's funny.
so I have
Giannis, I feel that way about Giannis. I'm not saying I don't feel Jokic could potentially be the best player because no, he definitely has an argument. I feel the same way about Giannis though. I feel as though Giannis legitimately has an argument to be the best player in the league and one of, if not the best. If we just go with a peak Giannis, I feel like a peak Giannis could have been the greatest player ever. I don't think he is, but I feel as though he could have been.
no, I definitely get that. Where do you got guys like? Let's just do some because we're running out of time and stuff anyway since we started late. But let's just go with like, what do you think LeBron's best year was? What do you think Jordan's best year was? Since those are most people's one and two.
Ooh, so now that's crazy for me because here's the reason why. Um, their best years are not necessarily within like, in my opinion, their peak years. I mean, peak
Okay.
years, their
Kind of
peak
like what I feel about Kobe.
periods. Yeah, so it's
Mm.
like for instance, Mike, what was it, that 88 season? Nine, something like that. I
I'll
forget
tell
the
you. I'll tell you
exact.
what I think peak Mike was. I'll argue this to the death of me. Peak Mike was 1993, 92, 93 was peak Mike. And it's not so much the stats. And I mean, the stats were still cool. He had better statistical years or whatever, but it was just his mastery and control of the game as well. So that's one of those deals where we got to figure out a way to quantify the eye test of the mastery and control. And I guess it's like defense box plus minus and things like that. But when you watched him in the playoffs, and I mean, the numbers were good. I mean, he was 33, 7, 6, 3 steals, and a block. So it's not like
Hmm.
he had bad numbers, but it's like you were saying that 88 year where he was like 35 and 3 steals and almost 2 blocks. And then that 87 year where he got 37. And then that other year was at 89 where he got 8 blocks, 8 assists, and 8 rebounds. So yeah, there was some better statistical, but I just remember watching that playoffs. Who'd they do? I'm pretty sure it was they swept. I want to say they swept the Cavs in the first round and then swept the Hawks. And that might be reversed in '93. Then they lost the first 2 games against New York, stormed back, beat those in 4, put the Suns in a chokehold. Dude averaged 41 in the finals. So the record. Just masterful too. And people always give shit about Dan Marley. You know what I mean? Dan Marley with athlete. I know he was white, but he was still a good athlete and still a good defender. You know what I mean? So when these people now are looking back 30 years and talk shit, like I don't think you understand like how athletic Dan Marley was.
Dan Marley was tough. That's another thing. Dan
He
Marley was
just couldn't
tough. Don't
dribble. He just couldn't
Yeah,
dribble. That was the only
but
thing.
don't think you just finna score I mean, don't look at Mike and think that everybody's just finna score all over Dan Marley.
He was swole. Marley was swole too, especially for an NBA
Yeah,
player.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Dan Marley was no joke.
to me that was peak Mike here. Yeah, he wasn't, but to
Um,
me that was peak Mike year.
what year? Because I thought it was in the '90s. What year did Mike get MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and a title?
I mean that was 90. No, that was he only got defensive player of the year 1 year. He never got a title with the defensive player of the year.
Oh, okay.
So he got Finals MVP, I think All Star MVP,
Yep.
MVP scoring title, and the 72 win season,
That's what it
and
was.
then that other year, right before 92, 93, he got all those same things too, plus a gold medal in 92. So maybe that's what you're thinking of. There's like a few different things or
Yeah,
whatever, but
yeah. Getting all of them all in 1 year is just crazy, though. But yeah.
no, I mean yeah, like Akeem's got one of those years. There's been a few players that's got one of those years.
Yeah, yeah. Now to answer your question, LeBron, I had to look up the exact numbers for LeBron, but LeBron was killing stuff, and I want to say the '08 season. Oh, the Miami season '02 when he first went to Miami, 2011. That's another one of those high peak years for me, as far as LeBron goes.
Well, that year that they won 66 games and won the 27, that was like the high peak LeBron for me because I mean the dude was shooting like 60% from two, 40% three, and LeBron's not a shooter like he's definitely improved. Like this year, he shot 41% or whatever, only the second time ever. So I mean, he's definitely been working on his shot. I think that's
Mm,
also how he's extending his game because he's a lot better shooter now. And especially in this league, you need it. And then if he's able to pull up from range, over people guarding him, he's normally got the height and all that.
yeah.
So yeah, LeBron, yeah, that just the efficiency level. But then they had those like struggles in the playoffs. Like I still don't know how the Pacers took him to 7. Um, so
Paul George
I
put
mean,
some respect on it.
I know. Well, to be honest with you, I was incarcerated in the hole at the time, so I mean, I didn't get to see any of the playoffs that year.
Oh,
But
bro.
to be,
Okay.
I'd reflect on it.
George was hooping that year. He was hooping. Like, yeah, Paul George was legitimately, and it's so crazy too. You know how Paul George was like, well, I can't be the GOAT. Part of that comes from at one point Indiana was looking like they could possibly dethrone Miami for a little bit. So it
Miami.
was just like, yeah, so it was crazy that they were looking like that. So that's where like kind of that Paul George like, well, I can't be the GOAT because it was like people were really comparing him like they, kind of like Kawhi. You put LeBron against Kawhi, and Kawhi appears to be like the LeBron killer or neutralizer. That's what Paul
Hmm.
George was looking like that season. He was looking like the LeBron neutralizer. He was going at him. They were battling. So yeah, that's how they got stretched to 7, and they looked like legitimately Indiana looked like they might win. That was crazy. And then
No,
what he got
yeah,
hurt
no, I
again.
agree with that. I know because he broke his foot. He broke his foot on the Olympic trials where
Yeah.
he broke it terrible. But that's why I always argue when people try to say, and this is like just looking at stats or whatever, when they're like Melo, because I'm like Paul George is better than Carmelo. When people start trying to elevate Carmelo, like how do you figure? I go, well, go watch the 2013 playoffs, and that's
I
and that's
mean,
prime Melo against young George, and he killed him.
Paul George gives you the same thing offensively, but way more defensively. Like, I don't even understand the argument. Like, if you want to look at it like Carmelo has all of these things in his bag offensively, that is true. He does. The problem with that is Paul George has the same stuff in his bag offensively.
Well,
Like,
here's the
he might
thing.
not be
So
like he's not the post or the bully like Melo is in a post like that, but at the same time, um, did I say Paul? I don't think I meant to say Paul Pierce. If I did, I meant Paul George. But what I was gonna say though is this fool has he got the touch. You feel me? He's got the athleticism. He's got the defense. And again, he's gonna give you around the same amount of points. Maybe what? Maybe 5 or 6 points less.
well, I
But
mean, at
it's
his peak,
gonna
he's getting
equate
you
more to wins.
28.
Well, there
At
you
his peak,
go.
he's
You
getting
feel
you
me?
28, and that's Melo's
That's
peak.
on par. Yeah.
Paul George is a much better 3-point shooter. But here's what I'm saying: I am so sick of the bag argument. I am so sick of the bag argument. I don't give a shit how deep your bag is. I give a shit how effective your bag is. That's all I
Right.
give a shit about. And just for prime example, and I can give you a million analogies, but I'll give you a basketball one. Okay, would you rather have white chocolate's bag or Shaq's bag?
With Shaq's bag, does that come with Shaq's size?
That Shaq's bag comes with Shaq. Jason Williams' bag comes with Jason Williams. Who's got the
Oh, well,
deeper
Shaq.
bag? But he's got but Jason Williams got the deeper bag.
He got the deeper bag, but Jason Williams also has way less hardware, way less titles, way less everything, way less points.
So so we agree. So we agree then it shouldn't be about who's got the deeper bag, it's who's got the more effective bag.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shaq
It
had the
ain't good
Shaq
enough to
had the
just have a
post
deep
up.
bag.
Right. Shaq had the post up, and that was about it. He back you down, you know what I mean? And like he might turn and hit that one arm shot, 18-footer, a baby hook, but it all came from the back down. You know what I mean? And that's what Shaq, and that's cool. And that's what I don't like about this deep bag shit. Who gives a
Mm,
shit if you got a deep bag if it ain't effective? That's like,
yeah,
that's like somebody 6 jobs but's broke.
yeah, yeah,
Obviously, it's not very effective.
yeah. You don't get to brag
So
about having like 5 jobs when you ain't got no money.
right. So that's my point. So who else you got on some peaks? Let's talk about a few more, and then we got to get out of here.
For sure, for sure. All right, bring up your boy. It's probably not the same peak year because he, he did have the triple. Oh, I'm sorry, not triple, quadruple double.
Hmm.
I'm referring to the Dream. Now the peak seasons that I have for him are 91 through 96. Um,
I'd go 92 through 96, but yeah, I feel you.
cool, cool, cool. So I got
Mhm.
him 91 through 96. For those who don't know, in this time he does get you two titles. He is the best player on both of those title teams, so he does get an MVP as well as Finals MVP both of those times. He gets one MVP. My bad. I want to make sure that I get that correct. So he does get one
Mhm.
MVP, but he gets two Finals MVPs. 93 to 97. Who we talking? We talking Akeem?
Yeah, he's talking Hakeem. He thinks that's his best years, but I would argue that 92, 93 season where they lost to the Sonics in 7 was way better than that Barkley Drexler year and all that. He just he definitely looked a step slow or whatever. And not so much with his scoring. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, scoring took a dip because they got Barkley, but it was his rebounds that took a dip. And once again, I know it's because Barkley, but
Mm.
still, I mean, he's the dream. He should be, and then it just kept getting progressively worse after that. He was still even effective in his Toronto years. It was crazy how good he was, despite how bad he was.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, 91 and 96, he gets two defensive players of the year. Like, you feel me? He was out there scoring on everybody. He's blocking shots. He's contesting. He's getting rebounds. He was just doing everything that needed to be done. And yeah, without a king, who knows? Maybe we see New York finally win in the 90s. Maybe we see Orlando see Shaq get his first title. You feel me? Things like that.
Well,
So
I think it wasn't for Keem. I think we would have seen Barkley and the Suns get a title.
that too.
Because if you look, those 8 series they won when the Suns by far gave them the problems. And it's a weird paradox. So this is a crazy paradox because I'll argue this to the death of me. I believe the '95 Rockets are the greatest team ever. And the only way you can't say they're the greatest team ever if you think regular season wins are worth more than playoff wins. Because they beat literally the teams with the 4 best records. They beat a team with the finals MVP on every one. But the thing is the Suns didn't have Danny Manning in the playoffs. They had the best record up until about 46 games or something like that. And then Danny Manning went down because I forget who it was. It was either Joe Klein or Danny Shays fell into his knee in practice, and then he was never the same anyways, and he already had injury problems. But yeah, I think those '95 Suns beat him. Because they lost by 1, they were up 3-1, and I just think Danny Manning is worth a point over Joe Klein and Danny Shays. They were playing better with Danny Manning. They were more versatile with Danny Manning, especially when he played the 5. Barkley played the 4. They had guys like Wesley Person banging in threes at the 3, and then they ran like a Dan Marley, Kevin Johnson. They were deep. They also had guys like
Hmm.
Wayman Tisdale. Richard
Yeah.
Dumas, I think, even came back that year, or if not, it was '96, one of the two. But yeah, I don't know. So it's a weird paradox. I don't think they were even the best team that year, but they were the greatest team if you factored in health and all that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. I mean, I don't hear much arguments against that. So yeah, I'm with you.
Let's do one more and then we'll take off for the night. Who else you want to do?
Well, so I want to do since I haven't shown him much love, I'm gonna go with Bird.
Okay.
Again, might be different peaks for you. For me, Bird, I went with Bird from 83 to 88. This
Mm.
time he gets us two titles, two Finals MVPs, three MVPs for the league. He's an All
In a
Star
row.
all 5 years. Three in a row. You feel me? He's an all star all 5 of the years, making all NBA first teams all 5 of the years. He wins a 3-point contest in his time. He leads the league in free throws 3 times. So yeah, he's giving you an average throughout the season of 27, 9, 6, even a steal, shooting at 51%. Even in the playoffs, he's slightly dropped down to 26, still giving you 9 boards and 6 assists, still giving you a steal a game. Field goals is probably about like 48. But yeah, that's an effective 5-year run.
You know what my favorite Bird quote of all time is?
Hmm.
He said one time he goes, "I hate to lose more than I like to win."
hate to lose. I feel that. I could see that. Um, I'm not the same, but I get it. I definitely get that,
No,
and
no,
that's a competitive spirit.
yeah, that's a very competitive spirit. No, what I like about Bird is I got Magic Johnson greater. Magic won more, but then again, too, Magic had a top five player in Kareem, and Bird didn't. But
Hmm.
kind of is what it is. But I argue that I think Bird is a much better player than Magic Johnson. Bird didn't have any weaknesses. Magic did. If you put short ball hockey guards on Magic, he couldn't really dribble against me. He'd have to put his back towards them. He wasn't really the greatest outside shooter. Bird didn't
Or
really
the
have any weaknesses. He played. What's up?
No, I was just gonna say, or defensively, and it's not that Magic had absolutely no defense, but Magic was more of a defensive. I don't want to say defensive liability. That's not fair. What I
He
do
was
want to say
average.
though, yeah. Whereas
He was
Bird,
average.
no, Bird is a gritty. He's a gritty one. Like with Magic, you might have to put like one of your younger, or put one of your smaller guards. You feel me? Magic is a guard, but you're having to put smaller dudes on the actual guards. Like Magic isn't the type of guard that's gonna go out there, or he's not the type of player that's gonna go out there and necessarily guard the best player. You know, not to say that he can't. I'm just saying that's not the job that he's gonna pick up. There might be a lot of switches where Bird, nah, he out there. It don't matter. Bird is jumping on
Well, what
whoever. He don't care if you're.
I love about Bird is he's a head, he's a shoulder above. He's a shoulder and up player. He plays the game with his head. He thinks the smart way to play. One of my favorites. I want to say it was against the Blazers. I could be wrong, but there was this one game where he had a chance for a quadruple double. He had 9 steals through 3 quarters. They were blowing him out, and they go. What did they say? Oh, they're like, hey, you want to go in there and get the quadruple double? He's like, nah, they had enough of me. As big homie goes, and then we're gonna dip. Dwayne Wade, top 10 peak. I would completely disagree with that. Not to say he didn't. I mean, are we talking 1 year? Are we talking over 5? Or how many years are we talking? But even if we are, I mean, I don't know how you could get to that. I mean, because I would say, for example, um,
Top 10.
I mean, I'll put it this way. Bob Pettit won a title, won 2 MVPs, and had better stats, at least raw stats, than Wade. Then you got guys like Kareem. You got guys like Wilt. You got guys like Bill Russell. You have guys like Moses Malone. You have guys like Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, Tim Duncan. Who else we got? Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Jokic. So I don't know from '05 to 11. I don't know. I don't think it was top 10. It was a really good run from '05 to 11, but I just don't think it was top 10. He had like a 24-point game season in there. He was missing the playoffs in there. He had 1 year where he went 15 and 67. Starting in 2010 and 2011, for some reason the Heat started treating Mario Chalmers like he was Meg from Family Guy, which, you know what I mean. I got to get a knock on that.
They hated him. Um, I
Wasn't
mean,
even his fault, and they were like, "Shut up, Meg."
I get. Wade did look amazing. I'm not even gonna
Oh
front.
eight, oh
His
nine, he
peak
looked
up.
awesome.
That's actually what I was about to bring up. I was about to bring up 0809. He looked
Hmm.
incredible. Say he's giving you like 30 a game, 7 assists, something like that. So yeah, and also we're seeing Wade carry teams. We're seeing that he had it. He had the heart. And All-Star games, he's looking like one of the best players in the league. On the court, he's looking like the best player in most games. In series that he's playing in the playoffs, stuff like that, he's looking like the best player in the series. So yeah, I mean, an argument can be made that Wade had an incredible peak, especially that particular year. But I don't feel as though Wade's peak years can really compare to like those who would be considered the greatest or in the top 10. The players
I agree
that
with that.
are are in the top 10, they did a little more. They had a little bit more of a claim than what Wade did in that
Well,
time.
well, what I'm saying is like from '05 to 11, if one of your years you're going 15 and 67, you can't be, a top team. You can't get swept by the Bulls 1 year in the first round. You know what I mean? Just things like that. His '09 year, he lost to the Hawks. He lost to Joe Johnson and the Hawks and all that. I get his team, but I mean, there's got to be some of your peak though has to go with coincide with winning. He did get the title that year in '06. I think that'd be a much better argument. Top 10 finals. of all time. I think he has an argument for that.
Yeah.
I mean, that one year, yeah, when he just went off against the Mavs and all that. But I don't know. We'll get more peaks. We'll discuss more peaks later on. We ought to go people's lows. Who's got some of the biggest lows of all
Oh
time?
snap.
No, I guess valleys. I guess that lowest valleys. I already know who's going to be number one in my book, and that's going to be Anthony Bennett because he never came out of the valley. He started off in the valley, and he was consistent. Let's go 0 to 200 real quick. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, check us out. Get some T-shirts off us. Invite us to your guys's, parties, fiestas. Whatever you guys want to do. Support the channel. Let's do it.
Finish, please don't make me laugh with that half-ass gimmick. I'm about to get mine and it's about time. Call us Grindhouse, everybody in a house grind. I'm just doing me, I ain't trying to outshine. Trying to kill my vibe is how you get outlined. I don't do it for the views and the likes, boy. I'm just giving you what I wrote last night, boy. I don't care if it isn't what you like, boy. My flow is fucking awesome, ain't it, white boy? Feeling fly.
Oh yes.
All right, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Please check us out tomorrow when we come with some more takes and fulfill all your needs in that.